Hey,
Uh,
David. Great to see you, man.
hey, thanks for having me on. We've been trying to get this, and then we messed up the times, and we were, it is what it is in today's mixed up world.
Time zone.
Time zone, time's up is more like it. Time's up in the
No.
time zone, whatever time zone you're in. The
Yeah,
black gold, the
well,
Texas tea, the cement pond. That's the most important thing for us, for those of you who remember the Beverly Hillbillies.
yeah, yeah.
The Texas tea, if it starts running short, we're going to have a problem over here. I was just, before, I was chatting with Rex, I was like, there's some big money broadcasting some moves here that, haven't been seen before. And if you got eyes to see and ears to hear that, big money's making some moves. So maybe the little fish can follow behind the big fish on this one because it's out there in the public arena. So here we go. We got Jamie Dimon dumping $140 million in JP Morgan shares. And get this, it's the first time he's ever sold stock in the company. And he's been the CEO since 2005. And this is the very first time he's ever sold his stock, ever. And he's dumping 140 million, not like 1 million or 10 million or 14 million, 140 million. So he must know something that we don't, because they're the ones that are making the markets. And let me
And
throw this other slide right there at you. These are the four too big to fail banks right here. And this is year to date, how much they're down. And, if things get more crazy, people are going to pull their money out of the banks even further just for daily expenses and things, more inflation. So, I mean, this right here mixed with the talk of all these Middle Eastern countries saying, hey, cut off the oil to the West. The best I could do is say, learn from what happened during the oil embargo and then learn what happened during World War II when there was rationing. And then we can kind of get a good idea of people lived through this before. So how do we live through it and prosper through this time again? It's going to be what, 3.0 this time? We had World War I or World War II rationing and World War I, but that was way too far back. And 1970s oil embargo, so that's 2.0. And now if we get this, it'll be 3.0. So how do we as an advanced society that relies on oil with our oil have been cut off from internally, and the Strategic Petroleum Reserve only has 17 days of supply in it? You already know that we're going to go into rationing. So don't like, rationing. Understand that. And how do you prepare for it is more like the question. And that's what Rex and I want to talk about. Like, you don't have to be frightened going into this. Realize that we've gone through this before, generations, many a time. So it's new for us, but how do we really get through this and excel? I guess that's the question.
yeah, that's the question. Absolutely. And what do you think we do?
Well, I would say, take a look back at our forefathers and those further back in time. Like, what did they do? They carpooled when they went somewhere. I had a long talk with my dad who lived through the oil embargo and he was working at the time. So people would meet up in one place and then they would all hop into the car, carpooling. It was a thing. It really was a thing. And people traveled together to save the petrol. So you might have five guys riding to work to go together in the same company or town or whatever. But we could see the same thing again. Like, maybe you don't go to Costco or you don't go to the supermarket by yourself. Maybe five of you rally up and then split the gas costs or use each other's rations cards to get a full tank of gas so you all can go off and do shopping. I'm just trying to learn from the past as to what's happening.
In the ancient world, gold was magical. Gold was a manifestation of the sacred, and objects fashioned from it were a means of connecting with a supernatural world. Far from passive deposits of wealth, gold was sacred. It was greatly prized in cult. Objects made of gold were active agents in an ongoing engagement with powerful forces. The Inca used gold to make ritual objects, combinations of gold and silver and gold and copper called tumbaga. Wearing gold jewelry was a sign of a person's wealth and power. For the Inca, gold was also the blood of Viracocha, their sun god. For the Mayan people and many others in ancient America, gold was part of a complex symbolic system. Gold is mentioned in Greek mythology for examples as varied as King Midas, the golden fleece stolen by Jason who possessed the power of resurrection, through to the golden apples of Hesperides. The golden apples were guarded by the 100-headed dragon Ladon. The dragon conferred immortality on whoever ate them. Over the past 5,000 years, from the Egyptian pharaohs and the merchants of 14th century Venice to world governments in the space age, man has treasured gold for its utility and value during times of both prosperity and disparity. Through the rise and fall of great dynasties and civilizations, gold has maintained its purchasing power as a reliable store of value for millennia. Gold has been used as money since 560 BC, when King Croesus of Lydia created a gold coin in his own image. Ever since, it has continued to increase its long-term value and remains the world's most universally accepted form of money. Today, the demand for gold continues to flourish globally. History proves that fiat paper money is designed to go to zero through inflation, whereas gold has intrinsic value in which it maintains forever. Paper money is a debt instrument. Gold is an asset of wealth in its own right. It does not depend upon any governments, corporations, or individuals' promise to repay. ITM Trading has spent the last 27 plus years developing a team of expert researchers and analysts to make this possible. Simply put, we build strategies which are historically proven to protect your wealth and assets through any economic downturn or currency collapse. Schedule your free gold and silver strategy call 866-834-1422. That's 866-834-1422, or go to learn.itmtrading.com/MIAC and keep watching Mountain High Time and Mini Ice Age Conversations if you know what's good for you.
And now on with the video. Going to be difficult to get over here really into the States to do a lot. Like it's really removed. That's way over there. Then what happens? The biggest thing they're really going to do possibly to the U.S. is cut off the oil. And if the Strait of Hormuz, something were to happen, oil stops for the world. Okay. But then what? We still have some oil here in America. They just lifted the embargo on Venezuela, of all things, last week. They said, hey, Venezuelan oil good this week. You're naughty last week. We don't care. So the restrictions for Venezuelan oil have been lifted so we can import from them. But would you allow that? I'd be like, hell no. Yeah, I'm not giving you anything. Then what are we going to do? Invade Venezuela to get their oil now this time? It's ridiculous. It's hypocrisy up to here.
Well, how much are we producing as a nation?
Not much any longer. The whole energy program's kind of been put on halt in the current administration.
Would we have the ability to independently produce enough gasoline and petroleum not to have to import if we change the politics around?
Yes, but a lot of that would be used for the war effort too. So again, before we had 100% lion's share of just go out and drive your jet ski, take your holiday, do what you want to do, drive around, enjoy your life. But now, even if U.S. ramped up to 100%, again, to what it was, how much do you think a military would use of that?
during,
We're going to be way down the pecking order here. You and your jet ski are at the very bottom of the pecking order.
so you do see global conflict and the U.S. possibly getting pulled in more than they already are.
Maybe not getting pulled in. Maybe they're getting planned in. Because I'm going to go a little woo-woo with you here. I mean, you look around the world, everybody needs a reset. China needs a reset. Their economy is collapsing from within. Their societal problems from within are just steamrolling the country anyway into collapse. They need to redirect the energy of all the 40 million more men of marrying age because of the one-child policy. And their real estate market's collapsing. And, there's a lot of things. The whole world needs a reset. So perhaps it's not as organic of a thing happening as we might think it is. I don't know. That might be too woo-woo.
No, because, well, maybe. Yeah, it could be. Life's pretty woo-woo. I mean, when I was just a kid and I would look at the environment and just my intuition would see that what I saw then anyway is similar to what you just brought up. Like, was all of this financial civilizations, the monetary system, was it designed to usurp as much as it can to those that are the dungeon masters, we'll call them, the DM, and they're pulling the strings. They've done this before. They've learned about this before from their ancestry possibly, and they know when the fall, or around the time of when the fall of what we know as civilization is going to happen. And so they predict everything accordingly. They're like, okay, well, at this point in time, we might be quadrillions of dollars in debt, but it doesn't really matter because we know that there's going to be a reset and a new system that comes in play. And they could just orchestrate all of that. And it could be linked to the stars. It could be linked to mystery schools. It could be linked to the top players that know about these things. And now we've got artificial intelligence systems that can actually predict and forecast future events that they've probably already been tapping into for decades, but it's probably going to get to a point where that's all they really look at is what the computer tells them to do. But that's for a whole other podcast. Your thoughts?
Well, no, you have to think about electromagnetism and how it could bend the human perception of reality and how that can be used against us. In lowered magnetic fields, they've done a lot of studies with rats when they put them in different electromagnetic fields, and the lower or changes in the electromagnetic field around the rats cause them to become much more violent and angry. So if you knew that field change was inbound, you could almost harness that and direct it in any way. Because the lobes of your brain are electromagnetic. They're firing electrically and sending signals. So changes on our sun, the Birkeland current coming in, powering our star, and in turn our magnetic field on the planet, and especially these giant coronal holes coming around. There's some changes in the sun. If you knew that cycle, you could harness that human response to it. I'm sure that's been gamed out forever as well. How the human behaves in a disturbed, decreasing, increasing, or zero magnetic field. Like you're non-functional at a zero magnetic field. Your brain literally won't function because there's no magnetism. There's no lobes any longer. It's just 0 point. So when we're coming down to that, then how do you take advantage of it and direct the emotion?
The eclipse that we just had, the Ring of Fire. That seems
in Virgo's
to be
hand, no less, in the hand of Virgo. And they often say that is the hand of harvest. So you put those two together and there you go again, mystery school kind.
I made sure to go to the Four Corners for that. And I experienced the full eclipse, the Ring of Fire at the Four Corners. It was magical, man. And so like the reset you're talking about, a lot of people, including myself, have questioned what are some of the implications of these eclipses? Do they create certain resets in certain energy fields? And there's a lot of cataclysms that take place around, historically speaking, around eclipses. And that might have something to do with some of the Navajo traditions of staying inside during these eclipses. And I've also, I'm looking at this in a different perspective as, okay, Like what happens when you're on the phone and it doesn't work right or your computer's glitching out? What do you do? What's the easiest thing to do to fix it usually?
I don't know. What do? I reset? Maybe.
Reset, turn it off, turn it back on. Like what if you're trying to get in Zoom and the meeting has a problem? Usually the
Turn
easiest
it
thing
off,
to do.
turn it back on.
Yeah, it's a reset. It's an adjustment. And that's what I see that eclipse as that we just had, like a reset of the glitches, putting things back into harmony, putting things back into balance and into perspective. And if we can feed off of that and embrace that and, you know, use that to our advantage, then awesome. Hello, high five. Number 5 is
Whoa,
alive.
give it to me, man. What do you see?
I see the Kabbalah.
You sure do.
Or the Tree of Life. And then I see
Tree of
the
Life.
solar system.
For those in the audience here, family friendly. This is Tree of Life. And what do you see over on the right?
Neptune.
Yeah, those are the 4 gas giants that are going to have this alignment where some electromagnetic strangeness shall occur October of next year on the 23rd. So look how the squaring 4 gas giants plug straight into the Tree of Life, and where some of the planets, the sun and the earth, actually fit in there too. So I would consider this the beginning of the cycle. So I call this one the Tree of Life alignment.
I like that.
Yeah, so once you start to look at it, they really do plug into their proper places. Now, if this is the beginning, then as above, so below, we'd have to reverse the screen and then somewhere find the other inverse of it and come to the conclusive point. I've been digging in that a little more than I was this, but it's somewhere around 2032.
Gee, maybe 2030, there's more to that than we have postulated. Like there's obviously some high level implications, questions of is there a Messiah that's going to be brought in, or a savior, or a specific entity, or a civilization, a certain asteroid, a planetary body, all of the above. 2030 is very significant. And we could take that even to the singularity. Will we reach singularity by then? If we do as a whole, as a species, then we are not going to be confined by many of the parameters right now. And so is there a control grid out there that wants to keep people in these parameters to where they can't break out? I would say 100% yes. Whether or not it's going to work, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a part of the experience. That's a part of the journey. The hero's journey is actually becoming the hero, pulling yourself out, being the phoenix that rises out of the ashes, and being the change, man. So it's such a spiritual battle as well. Imagine all of these entities that can influence us at an interdimensional level. We've talked about this before, the extraterrestrial phenomena. The more I research this, the more mysterious it becomes. I'll tell you this, though. I've done quite a shift of my beliefs 7 years ago before I started doing all these interviews about what ETs were versus what they are now, right? Because my own personal experiences, I went in kind of biased, like, well, yeah, man, grays, extraterrestrials, people went to Mars and they came back and talked about it. But I started doing these interviews with people that made these claims, and a lot of them are just, okay, let's really turn me off of that topic. Let's just put it that way. But there are some people that I know that have had experiences with entities that are not human, including myself, unless it was just a very vivid dream that I remember having as a toddler in my crib. But that's a whole other podcast. So insects, man, giant insects staring at me. It was so weird. But what in the heck is going on right now? Well, we've got conflict in the Middle East. We've got conflict with the monetary system. We look at what's going on in China and Evergrande and the real estate market. What just happened a couple years ago with the what would you call it? Cervasos demons that were unleashed in the world.
That's a great one, man. The vid.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. So where are we going to be in 5 years? Where is America going to be in 5 years? Where is the rest of the world going to be in 5 years? What is society going to be like in 5 years? Is it going to be smart cities and rural communities? And then they're going to be like borders, checkpoints. Oh, you want to go from your rural town in Georgia out in the hills, out in the mountains. Now you want to come into Atlanta. Well, we need your papers. We need your authentication, authorization to enter. What do you see? Or is it just going to be like it is now, just more intense, more polarized, or less?
Well, one thing that needs to happen first is for anything to move forward from here in terms of growth, the younger generations, and I don't care what it is, if it's in China, they're experiencing the same thing as with the younger generation here in the United States is the same thing that they're experiencing in Europe. Anybody that's 20 years old and younger looks at this world and is like, I can't afford a house. This corporate thing is soul sucking and I'm at the bottom level and I'll never even be able to retire with the crappy wages that they're paying right now. Clawing over everybody's back to get, minimum wage at a corporate job. And the whole younger generation just isn't buying it, first of all. But see, that's what kept this social contract moving was everybody believed their generation could, take part in the growth and, get that white picket fence, have that house, have the vacations, have the dogs, the kids, whatever it is. Look at the messaging. No dog, no kids, no house, Uber car because you can't afford one and the insurance, and you're going to work minimum wage, and you're going to have to work until you go from cradle to grave and enjoy your existence where you will own nothing and you will eat the bugs and be happy. Now, that's what that's what the younger generation envisions this world as being for them across the planet. I don't care if you go to, like I said, China believes the same. So how did that has to break free first to give that younger generation the impetus to want to go to work to get those things, or else it just doesn't work. So how do you revamp that? That really has to be the reset, is to reset it so those youngest of generations that's coming up now believes that there's something worth living for and something worth working for and actually having a goal. Because you look at, the goals that they have are quite a bit different than either my parents had about getting houses and things. The goals they have are the experience goals. Yeah, I'm saving some money so I can travel and go, that's their goal. It's not physical things so much as it is experiential things. So that's, you can't sell consumables like washers and dryers and dishwashers and things when you have kids if they're not having kids and the goals are misaligned in that direction. So there's a lot of misalignment in a lot of things in society right now. So how do you get that all realigned again? The reset is the only possible way. You have to destroy the present world, evaporate it, and something comes out of the ashes. Now, I'm really hoping it's not the bank digital currency that the Bank for International Settlements on the Unified Ledger plans for us. But, so walk me through that, Rex. I mean, you see how it's got to be reset based on what I was just saying. Like, how do you reset that? Just for the younger generation to believe, to make expansion happen again. It really boils that simply down to it.
Don't panic, prepare. Smart folks are investing in emergency food now. A wise man once said, "It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it." Heaven's Harvest is the nation's leader in emergency food storage. It's the only investment you get 100% of your money for, even better than gold. Survival experts recommend the 3-month emergency food kit. Go to heavensharvest.com, use the code ADAPT at checkout and save a mind-blowing 15%.